Okay, so straight up, I love the film, dude. I thought you were wonderful in it. So I wanted to ask first off, like, how did you get involved?
I was coming back from Vancouver. I did a TV show up there for 4 years called Rogue, and I read the script on the way to Los Angeles, landed in LA, and called my agent. I said, I have to meet them, today. I want to make sure that I get in there before anybody else. You know what I mean? So I drove directly from the airport, had a meeting with Glenn and his wife, Hallie, who's the writer as well, and talked with him for about an hour and a half and just told him, look, this is someone I know. This is someone that I need to portray. I feel like I can do it to the best of my ability. And he just gave me the role right there in the meeting. He just said, Cole, I think you're right, you know, and I've seen your work. I know how dedicated you are. I know what you'll bring to this. And I believe you as John Wright. So, and that was it. And 3 weeks later, I was up in Washington filming the movie.
Oh, that's amazing. Without spoiling anything, was there a specific scene or a moment in the script that you felt that connection right away?
Um, I think all of it, man. I mean, I got to be honest.
Whole
Like,
thing. Wow.
yeah, it was just like him coming into town, him being disgraced, having to deal with his demons, his past, having to look himself in the mirror. Um, Being a mentor, the faith aspect of it, the redemption, the athletic, stuff that I had with Sean, and the coaching, the teacher, the guy who gets to be able. There's so many colors, Justin, throughout the picture that I hope that we, I've seen it. I think we did. We touched a lot of them. It's very rare that you have an opportunity as an actor to be able to play in all those different arenas.
No, and that's something I do appreciate about the film. It does a family drama. It's a sports film. I even might argue it's even a little bit of a Christmas film to a certain degree. So one thing I do want to talk about, of course, is the wrestling aspect. How familiar were you at all with professional wrestling, or just that kind of wrestling?
I mean, I had some buddies that in high school wrestled. I was a football player, so I never wrestled in high school, but I have a whole new respect. I mean, I rolled around with this guy who's college. He's a good wrestler. He's not the greatest in the country, but I rolled around with him for like 5 minutes. And I mean, it was exhausting. You know what I mean? So I was like, this is definitely, you need to be in shape. And Sean Scully, who plays Michael, and Casey Moss, the two actors, they wrestled in high school, I believe, but they were just in insane shape. They had to do that scene at the end of the movie probably 10 times. So imagine, having to do that. It was extraordinary. They deserve all the credit in the world.
Um, Now here's the idea. There's a bunch of thing about sports films. I feel like like even if you're not into the specific sport, anyone could understand. Like, what sports films did you personally enjoy growing up, and do you see maybe have some similarities with The Last Champion?
I mean, one of my favorite sports films. I have a few, but one of mine is it's an old film. It was directed by Taylor Hackford, and it's called Everybody's All American, and it's with Dennis Quaid, Jessica Lange, Timothy Hutton, and it's about the Gray Ghost and about this running back who in the 50s was this like really celebrated guy coming out of LSU and was on top of the world, and then went into the NFL and got his butt kicked and realized he wasn't good enough to actually play at that level. And then it was really about kind of the downturn of his career. So it's a great film, and I feel like there are similarities to John Wright, because he was so prominent, in the wrestling community, whether it was state, college, national champion, then on to the Olympics. And then, I don't know if I have my personal thoughts, and so did Glenn, about what happened, why he did steroids. But obviously, it's one of those things that you see athletes doing more and more, just trying to gain an advantage, and it obviously backfired on him.
Right. Now I did mention earlier, I kind of can see this film as a bit of a Christmas film. What do you think about possibly families watching this during Christmas?
I love it. I mean, I think, Justin, between you and I feel like the country needs movies like this right now. They need to see films. Kids need to see films like this. There's bullying in it, which is something that needs to be talked about and tackled. There's friendship, there's love, there's redemption. I mean, it's got all these great qualities. So, I feel like there's the addiction part too, which I mean, you see him at the very darkest of dark, when it comes to alcoholism. So, there's a lot of teaching. I think when it comes to families and young kids, I mean, my kids have seen it, so, and they loved it, and they love seeing me go through that journey. So, I hope that it becomes. I mean, look, it's coming out in December. You got Thanksgiving and Christmas right here, and I'm hoping that everybody goes out and watches it.
I kind of want to hinge a little bit on the redemption part, and I feel like something like you said just a minute ago, just in terms of where we're at, I think something like this is very important. Like, what do you feel about like how your film explores redemption and second chances?
I think it's good. I mean, I think Glenn and Hallie did a great job of taking a character and having him start at the very lowest, of lows. I mean, in life, it's like he's starting from the ashes, and it's like he slowly is able to speak again to people, look them in the eye. I mean, he's been off the grid for so long that it's just, he probably has a better relationship with a horse than he does people, so it's kind of like one of those things where you get to see the steps of him. And then in the end, it's really not about him, which I love. And we worked really hard on, the ending, because I didn't want it to be like, well, John Wright won. No, it's Michael. Michael wins. He has the dreams now to go on to college and do what he, what I or John Wright didn't have the opportunity to do, which is to be clean, work your ass off and go and be the best athlete you can be. So I felt like it lands, in the right way in the end for me.
Awesome. There's one scene, there's one bit of your performance I do want to focus on. Without spoiling the film, it's after John witnesses something very terrible the night before, and he has to basically go back into training the next day, and he's keeping these emotions in with himself. Like, how do you prepare for, just to get everyone an idea, how do you prepare for something like that? What's your thought process into getting into a very complicated emotional scene that happens some of the following day?
Yeah. I filmed, I think it was 20, minus 22 degrees that night that I think you're talking about, where I, you know, um, but I think the very next day actually was the scene with Scott Moss and I, when he's basically bullying, Sean and the team, and then I snap at him, and it felt good. I don't like bullies. I've always had problems with bullies. I was a kid that went to a lot of different schools, and I was a redheaded kid. I was a little overweight when I was young, and they would bully me, and I'd end up getting in fights with them. So it's like I can't stand bullies, and so that makes me feel good to be able to just take his head off with words.
It was very satisfying. I'll admit to that. Cole, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure talking to you, man.